What's up, guys? All I'm going to talk about today is my opinions on this year's Premier League. Obviously, this year the Premier League was massively affected by coronavirus and like all football out in the world because everywhere had to stop because of this pandemic. But it made for quite an interesting season, to be fair, and I think, yeah, it's a bit unfair for some people because they had momentum maybe before the coronavirus and then they had to go away, but it's just what happened, and unfortunately, that's what they have to deal with. But I think this season's been very good. The only thing I think that's not been that exciting, not to take away from Liverpool, but the title race hasn't been that exciting this season. I think what's made it exciting is more the things around it. The title was kind of made up ages ago. Liverpool was so far ahead, and to be fair, they very much deserved it. They ended up finishing on 99 points, scoring 85 goals, which City actually scored a lot more goals. They scored 102 goals and only conceded 35 more, but obviously those games where they did concede were games that were really like they shouldn't have lost basically. City ended up coming second and losing 9 games, whereas Liverpool only lost 3 games, which isn't a bad thing at all. Like, City still played very, very well, and you would probably say the City team is a lot more scary. Like, when they turn up, they are the scariest team, in my opinion, in the Prem. But that Liverpool team just have that consistency at the moment. It does help that they rely on their defence a lot more, this Liverpool team, and like most people say, defence wins leagues, not attacks, because you can have a bad attack, but if you have a terrible defence, you're not going to win. Hence, in the way why like City lost in a way. Like Liverpool, yeah, they might have conceded 1 goal, but they were already like a few goals ahead, so they kind of chilled out a bit more. Whereas City, the goals they let in were goals that lost them games, basically. They ended up like City overall stats wise looks a lot better, but obviously Liverpool had the better results. Liverpool won 32 of their games, which is really impressive. And they got 99 points. They were very good, very well deserved it. I think next season, can they hold their title? Possibly, but I don't think it will happen. I think City will want to go for it, and all the other teams want to go for it. Chelsea look very good with the signings they're already going to make, as in Timo Werner. They look like they're very close to signing Kai Havertz right now. They're 2 really good signings. It does mean they'll probably let go a few of their players as well, but they're 2 amazing signings, so you can't hand it. One team I do want to talk about, which is the team I support, Man United. Now, I thought we were done for this season. We were like, we started off really, really poorly, and we were in 5th place, but we were like 14 points behind Leicester and like 8 points behind Chelsea, and I didn't think I wasn't sure if we had it until the signing of Bruno Fernandes. The signing of Bruno Fernandes was like, he's crazy good, and that's not even me overhyping him. In the last part of that season, they did a comparison of all the teams since Bruno Fernandes joined, and we got the most points. So it shows the impact of what one player could have in the team. And it's what I've been saying all the time. We need a player to create goals. Like Mata used to be able to do that, but he is getting past his time. Whereas Bruno Fernandes, like what I've said, our biggest problem is we're too scared of going forward and making those risks because we don't want to defend against it. But the problem is, if you don't do that, then you don't get a goal, and you do need goals to win games, unfortunately. So, but like he's made it so much more exciting. Rashford, Greenwood, and Martial all had a lot of goals. Like Greenwood, it was his first season properly to play, and he got 9 goals, and he didn't even start most games. Like he didn't play every game. He didn't start hardly any of those games, but he still scored 9 Premier League goals, which for someone of his age is very good. Martial and Rashford were very good, and I think there's more to come. Obviously, we're linked with Jadon Sancho quite heavily now. I think if we get him, I think we'll be a scary team because he's another very creative player and scary player to come up against. But yeah, overall, it was a very interesting. I think these were the games that made the last game of the season very interesting. We United had Leicester to play. It was, if we won at Leicester, we would go. I think we would go into third because of goal difference. And then if Chelsea won but we drew, then we would go into fourth. But if Leicester won and Chelsea won, Leicester would have been fourth, and Chelsea would have been third. So Leicester would have got Champions League. But then if Chelsea lost and we lost, then Leicester would have got third place. With us, I think we would have got fourth, yeah. So yeah, it was very good. And to be fair, we lost less games than Man City. We just drew a lot of games, like 12 games to draw in total is crazy. That's very bad. Like a lot of those games as well, we should have easily won, and we lost a lot of games that we shouldn't have lost. But yeah, there were a lot of teams this season. Like I think the Premier League has shown that it's the most competitive season because you got the teams of, like, you look at someone like West Ham, they look a very good team, but they were in the relegation battle. Newcastle were in the relegation battle at one point, and like every team is quite, like, I wouldn't say any of these teams were an easy game. The only games that I would count it as easy was maybe Norwich. Villa was easy for the big teams, but not easier for the lower ones. But yeah, I think Norwich were the only real easy game this season. But then they took points away from City, so they still did well against certain teams. Brighton for me is an easy game. But yeah, Bournemouth, Watford and Norwich were the teams that got relegated. But it was a very interesting last day. Bournemouth were in 19th place and they could have got out of relegation, but they would have had to rely on Villa and Watford to lose. They did win their last game, but unfortunately Watford ended up losing, which was a good thing for them. But Villa drew their game, which means they were on 35 points and they just stayed up literally on. If Watford scored another goal and drawed, they would have. I think they would have. Yeah, they would have just stayed up, but only by 1 goal. But if Watford won that last game, they would have been through. if Villa won that last game and the other two teams lost, then they would have been through. Bournemouth had to rely on both teams losing, basically. But yeah, overall, very good season, very competitive, and I think, if anything, it's going to get even more competitive next season. Like, with the likelihoods of West Brom coming up, and at the moment Leeds, I think Leeds are going to be a very, not as good as Wolves, but I think they are going to be very similar to Wolves. I think they're going to be a very solid team and do quite well in the Premier League. And we've got the likelihoods of either Fulham, or at the moment it looks like Swansea might come up. Either one of them. I think I prefer Swansea to come out of the two, but Fulham, I think it'd be interesting to see if they can do better this time, because they spent a lot of money last Premier League when they came up, but they just didn't pull it off. So yeah, but I think it shows that you don't have to spend a lot of money to stay in the Premier League, because Aston Villa spent a lot of money and they only just managed to stay up. But you got the likelihoods of Sheffield United. Sheffield United spent literally nothing and they got ninth place in their first Premier League appearance, like I don't know, like for ages. Is really, really good. They were a really difficult team to play against and played good football as well. And yeah, they just, like, they were very close to getting a Europa League spot at the time, but like now they haven't. But I mean, there's still games to be played. Like, Wolves could technically still go into the Champions League if they win the Europa League. We're still in the Europa League, so we could win that again. Arsenal and Chelsea have an FA Cup final, which will be interesting. I think if Arsenal win the FA Cup final, does it help them with anything? I can't remember. But yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting next season. I think all the big teams look like they're going to improve, maybe apart from Arsenal, because Arsenal just don't have the funds to keep up with the other teams, in my opinion. They are a team that need a lot of building up from in the club, not necessarily with the players in the club. They need a lot of building, because they're never going to compete with the other clubs, because you do need a bit of money. The only teams that you can say, yeah, maybe, but even Leicester have more money than Arsenal at the moment. Tottenham have more money than Arsenal at the moment. Wolves probably have more money than Arsenal, which is scary for them. Like, I actually see them, they could finish bottom half of the table next season if they're not careful. But yeah, anyway, let me know what you thought of the Premier League, and let me know who you're excited and who you think that might win the Premier League next season. In my opinion, I would shout probably City, because I think City, if they don't win the Premier League, that's a bad season for them, basically. I think we'll be close to challenging it, but I think give it 2 seasons, we'll be up there again. I mean, we're very, like, we're up there, just not challenging yet. But I think it could be very interesting. Maybe Bruno Fernandes, a full season with him will change it completely. And we're going to sign more players, but then so are every other team. So yeah, I think it'll be interesting, and we'll see what's going on. But anyway, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.